We have shots of riots going on, or excuse me, at least demonstrations going on. This is Trenton. This is New York. Is this Columbus Square?
These are still protests in New York going on right now. Of course, we know the LA situation. We've watched over what is tonight going to be the 6th night, I believe, of protests in LA.
Pick me up if I'm wrong, but does this now come down to a showdown between Governor Newsom and President Trump, and who has the legal right to decide what's going on there?
It seems like it should be 1861, not 2025.
I just saw a guy talk about that. He said Lauren is a legal expert.
Oh gosh, not yet.
In the works. But there were like two 1800 laws that kind of oppose each other about this. One is that the military is not supposed to be used in domestic situations against American citizens. And then there, of course, is the Insurrection Act, which, so, depending on what political side you fall on, you probably decide whether the Marines should go in there or not.
Right. It's kind of like a Rorschach test, I think, for half the country. Yeah. What they're seeing, is it peaceful protest about immigrations and immigrants' rights, or is it an all-out riot that needs to be squashed because it's going to light our cities on fire?
And these protests have been picking up across other cities, and there were some strong talk that some of the pro-immigration coalition groups were prepping people, warning them that workplace raids could be happen. Is that kind of where we get into your story?
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into my story, what we covered all of yesterday. And a lot of people have probably seen the dramatic video of the clash between protesters and Peoria police next to a Peoria neighborhood. But just kind of to take it back a few steps, essentially, because a lot of people were wondering, how did all these people show up? What was going on with, why did everyone know that this was happening? So as you mentioned, Brian, there were a lot of activist community members who were hearing that Tuesday could be a big day for ICE raids, possibly, and were warning people in the community that could be a possibility. Now, some of these activists did create this type of hotline for people. If they saw any type of federal agents walking around, to alert the hotline and to alert everyone there. That's apparently where they saw these trucks in a Peoria neighborhood. The hotline was alerted, as were a lot of other community activists who sent out this alert to people to come over into that neighborhood at that point. So that kind of leads us to how we got around 50 people outside of a Peoria neighborhood. And things started off when I was there. There were certainly a lot of people and a lot of yelling. I would say that the crowd was split, 50-50. There were people who were, pushing for peace and not appreciating any type of actions against officers. And then there were those who were very inherently violent, actually calling for violence upon police officers. We even heard at one point there was some type of statement from a man who was behind me saying something over "no revolution is bloodless." Wow. So clearly the gamut of people and perspectives there. But when we showed up, there were people, shouting and chanting, and they believed that this was an ICE raid. And I was down on my phone using what a lot of Fox 10 folks here know as Slack, alerting people here kind of what was going on. And I hear this shout, that immediate shout when you hear something is clearly wrong. Look up, and you definitely see this scuffle occurring. Tasers pulled out. Water is being thrown. So much to take in. I take out my phone, start recording. We have two photojournalists there on scene, Mark Johnson, and Rick is also there too. Rick, so you can definitely count on him for any of these types of situations here. He's always first on the scene somehow. And we have this from multiple angles as we saw all of this unfold.
Were you in harm's way? Were you right in the middle of this?
Yeah, I was certainly just a few steps away, and my husband looking back at this, he was like, you were really close to that. And all I was thinking in that moment, Brian, just as a reporter, was just so focused on seeing things through the lens of this and just capturing everything.
Make sure you hit record.
Making sure you hit record and just trying to soak up all you can to try to describe the details later.
Did you feel was the message to get people there one of just to support whoever was going to interact with ICE. That's original. Is that the overall message, not necessarily one of violence, and then others took it too far?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I do think that there was perhaps split intentions within the group. There was absolutely a woman who was there who did interviews with the press beforehand, who was very much so aggrieved when she saw this and was saying on a megaphone, "Stop, there's another way to do this. This is not who we are.
Right.
We cannot use violence." That was someone who was certainly there in addition to the people that were calling for violence. Some people perhaps there to pick a fight, but others there to show their support in this situation.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did want to just mention, because I want to welcome everybody into the chat that's also weighing in. Lori Bursch, she makes a point of, I just want to say that the mandate Trump got to do in his first term is the same mandate in the second. And then this is America's not ready for a female president. I pray Republicans will step up to everything they do 100%. So, 50% of the country,
Very mixed bag. Yes,
right. They feel that
yes.
this is kind of what they voted for with this issue. And I know it was a little bit of confusion there, right? Of, was this a HSI immigration issue or was this our narcotics investigation? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah,
just with some
so
of the mixed
that
signals
was
you got?
certainly the most interesting part of the day. So when we first got note of this, Peoria PD told us that this was a narcotics investigation. For those who don't know, this federal agency not only oversees ICE, but also some other federal investigations such as drugs, narcotics, human trafficking. So there was some type of thought early in the day that perhaps people on edge, looking for federal agency trucks like they were doing throughout this entire day, saw these vehicles and alerted the hotline, and it was automatically, this is an ICE raid, and that's what was talked about. Peoria PD says, nope, this is actually drug, narcotic involved, and that's what they said throughout the entire day. Adding an extra little wrinkle to this, and I think it's probably best to kind of read this really quickly in full, just for full kind of perspective here. And we got this from the communications chief of the Southwest of the Homeland Security Investigation, so that's HSI, and she says, Homeland Security Investigations executed a federal search warrant in Peoria. The search warrant was in furtherance to a narcotics and human smuggling case. One person was arrested on federal charges, and one other person was turned over to immigration officials. Special Agency Narcotics, Drugs, and Unknown Powder, the investigation is ongoing. So it does appear that immigration was involved in some way. Now, was this originally investigated immigration all along, or was this actually, a drug investigation, and then all of a sudden, as they're going through the investigation, they find someone to be turned over to immigration services? Unclear.
And that makes sense.
Unclear.
I mean, sure, if they go to a lot of crime scenes, maybe you find other crimes going on, or maybe you find someone who is an illegal immigrant, and then there's that area kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
At first, though, we weren't quite clear.
Well, for hours, right?
Yes.
I mean, that was kind of what was interesting, at least, I think from our perspective, is you guys are out in the field trying to work that at the in the newsroom here at Fox 10. We were trying to get all that ancillary information to help you guys out too, with making sure that we've made all the requests on, are we sure what this investigation is? And I mean, gosh, how many times was it yesterday? 4, 5, 6 times that we had repeatedly from our elected officials, but also from our police department out there. This is not related to immigration. This is simply a drug bust.
From the governor on down, right?
Yeah.
Saying it wasn't. And
and a lot of people weighing in. And of course, I know on my social media, I think yours as well, on Fox 10, we had several people ask, have you guys seen the warrant yet from the federal agents on what this bust was actually about? And it was interesting just to kind of give people a peek behind the curtain of trying to tell them that we've requested that information. We're trying to get it. And, a lot of the times, I mean, we wish that what we're being told at the scene that would be end all be all final. But you know how these things develop. It's
Absolutely.
the lead agencies kind of handing off different tasks.
Yeah, and you know, that's the other point to make too. Even if there was kind of a miscommunication here, it might not necessarily be nefarious, right? You know, when you have federal agencies working with state agencies and different kind of agencies who aren't necessarily used to working with each other, things can get lost in the cracks. Things can happen, so it can just really complicate communication matters.
I don't know about you, Lauren. I can count on 0 fingers how many times a law enforcement officer's handed me a warrant.
Oh,
said,
yeah.
This is why we're here. That just never happened.
Well, I actually think we do have video that you recorded yesterday, Lauren. Sorry, there's been a little issues behind the scenes, but we just want to warn everybody real quick. There is a little bit of language with this, so please, be aware of that. Let's go ahead and play it. Oh. Well, yeah, you definitely see the scuffle that's breaking out there, right? Now, Lauren, break it down for us.
Yeah, so I think this is Rick's video, and you can see the water being thrown at officers. And this happened really, really quickly is the thing.
The photojournalist, Rick Davis.
Yep, Rick Davis. And then you can kind of see me, and then that's other photojournalist Mark there in the blue over there with the camera. And again, everything happened so quickly. You see some punches being thrown, a lot of shoving of police officers. There was a taser that was brought out that one individual as well, and you see that individual being handcuffed and then later dragged and taken away over to the police cruiser.
Do we think just one person assaulted an officer at this time?
I did not see the actual assault happening. Again, I was on here trying to alert the newsroom of what was going on, so I can't personally speak to that.
Well, what we know,
it was a melee for sure.
Right, that at least this person, 23-year-old woman, that she was arrested for assaulting an officer. I also know that Fox 10 talked to the mayor of Peoria, who I believe said that there could be more suspects arrested in this from kind of what we saw just a second ago.
Well, that sure was a mess, and I'm glad you're all right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were on the scene to get the story and try to set things right. And as you said, we usually we find out what we find out the day of, and then things can kind of change.
Yep.
It's the rough draft of history. It's not the final report.
Right.
Here.
Absolutely.
A testament to Lauren's journalism too yesterday, following through hours after the end of her days. So well done.
Thanks for coming in, Lauren.
Thank you,
You've
guys.
been talking about Rick Davis. Guess who just happens to be coming up next? Rick Davis. And he has 4 topics to talk about. I mean,
Only 4.
Only 4.
Honestly, it could just be hours and hours with Rick.
It's just the Rick Davis show coming up. We'll be right back after this break.
Hey, you're watching Fox 10 Talks. I'm Trenton Hooker. It's Brian Webb. And just like we said, we have photojournalist Rick Davis. Rick, you're celebrating 40 years with us at Fox 10.
It's been a great run, Trenton.
What a milestone.
Great run. A lot of fascinating things that have evolved over 40 years.
Thank
in the
you.
city.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even think back at 40 years and 5 days a week on the job and breaking news and big stories and llamas on the loose. We'll get to that in a minute. I mean, God, how do you sum it all up? It's just,
we used to have those ratings periods,
yeah.
and you black out, this is ratings.
Yeah.
Every day is a ratings period now. It's
right.
just nonstop. The city has grown in 40 years to, all the major league
Yeah.
sports teams are
Sure.
in town. This is a big city now.
Yeah.
Phoenix is not a top 20 market. It's, top 10, top 5 now.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I wanted to mention, because we were kind of talking a little bit during the break about the important role that you play here, but just a story for me was, Rick, you were actually the first person that I met with the station when I came to visit.
Right, I
And
remember
as one of our assistant news directors, as he introduced you, said, "This is Rick Davis, our most veteran photojournalist who's seen it all, for the past 40 years."
Yeah.
And just when I think of the prototypical photojournalist, and coming from a print news background where newsrooms I've been in, scanner traffic's up all the time. You react to breaking news as it happens, and I mean, you embody just the aggressiveness of what you would think of a TV news photojournalist.
Yeah, well, we strive to be there when it's happening. And in order to do that, you need to know what's going on, and those radios help out a lot.
if I had a nickel for every time I come in and they said, hey, you're going, like today, as a matter of fact, hey, we're sending you to this story in blah, blah, blah. Rick's already there shooting it. I mean, you're always there in advance. And old school photographer ways, which you still do, which is great, is listening to the scanner. I mean, like, you have that baby going, so you're like, on the front, where something's happening as it's happening.
Yeah, and it helps because then you can be safe when you get to that scene. You know what's going on, and then you can turn it around, and as we serve the public for breaking news or what's going on, you know what to look for.
Right, and reacting as news
Yeah.
happens.
Exactly.
Well, and yesterday, Rick, you were out at this protest at 67th Avenue in Peoria, on the ground as that was happening. One thing at least I could appreciate as I was watching your camera and as you were documenting what was happening was a steady hand as this situation really developed and kind of devolved into kind of a little bit of chaos.
Yeah, melee.
Scene there.
Yeah, you could tell things were changing when DHS, they started to leave the scene. And in that video, I was high up, so I was behind everybody so I could see what was going on. And that one person that was arrested literally was trying to wrap the crime tape around that Peoria sergeant.
Oh.
And that's where the assault originally started at.
I just
Particular
want to welcome
question.
everybody to the chat too. Husky Mom, I've heard Rick's name so many times over the years. Many years. Rick is amazing. Several comments, a lot of love
Celebrity,
from the Fox
man.
family.
Well,
Celebrity.
Yeah, I'm from here, deep rooted.
Yeah.
My father, Phoenix police officer, killed in line of duty. I played college basketball at Grand Canyon University and at St. Mary's High School, so I'm a local guy.
How about that? You want to talk a little bit about your dad?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Can you walk us through?
We
Rick,
have some
just,
pictures, too.
Sure.
On that day. Where were you at the time when you got the call about your dad and that
Yes,
response he was doing?
I was working at the YMCA downtown, and my grandmother called and said they came and they got your mother. Your dad was in an accident. And so I got in my car to figure out what was going on, and it was blasting all over the radio. One officer went to St. Joe's, one went to Good Sam. So I go to St. Joe's first. My dad's not there. Concho was at Good Sam. And then I go to St. Joe's, and that's where my father was at. And, he lived for a month. Walked him around the ward, he was up and going, but those bullets got inside his system, a disease called pseudomonas, and they could not dilate his system fast enough to save him.
Whoa. And you were a teenager then?
22 years
22.
old. Yeah. College basketball player.
And you told me the story before, forgive me. He went in on an operation was it a bar or restaurant?
Yeah, so they were searching for a bank robbery suspect that went into a bar at Central and Southern. And it was, the summers are really hot and bright. They go in and it's dark in there. This guy's hiding in the bathroom. And no one saw him go in the bathroom. So they walked out and the door was slightly open and the sun's going in. And someone said, "Hey, is that the guy over there?" And he starts shooting, And he's still serving a life prison sentence. My dad hit him a couple times. He's now paralyzed, but he's in Arizona State Prison.
Do you mind me asking, do you ever get beyond that? I mean, you can't. Really.
You never do. It opens up a wound, just like today I'm at the fundraiser for Gabriel Facio, the Apache Junction officer. And you relive those moments, but at the same time, I had a lot of counseling to get me through all this.
Sure.
So when I reflect, I had nothing but greatness to think about him as a hero and officers like Facio that do whatever it is to serve the public.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
And
Rick, can you talk a little bit about that experience, obviously, with your father? And I know that Phoenix police community in the Valley, rally around you and your family with that. But your perspective of when you're going and covering these stories, especially these police stories, what you bring in with that knowledge when you're reporting the news?
Well, a lot of sensitivity. I mean, those officers are protecting us. They're to protect us. But at the same time, I'm there with a camera to show people what's going on. Last week, we had an officer assaulted 19th Avenue and Southern, broke her jaw, and things like that. And so when I pull up, I'm making sure I'm not too close, but in a position to show what's going on.
You're also good at, and Jasmine brought it up, our assignment manager. She said, Rick always gets people to talk to him. And that's so hard to do in these stressful situations with a big camera in someone's face. But what's your method? Because I could use a few hints.
There is no method. I try and look people in the eye and see what they, if they're going to approach me and they're looking me in the eye, I think that establishes a conversation. And if it's not, well, then I just let them go,
Yeah.
Husky Mom has a good question for you. In all your years of experience, has there been a story that you haven't felt comfortable in covering?
I am not good with drownings. And when our first son was born, he was, a little baby. And I went to one where the bucket drowning and they're running out with the kid. Very graphic. And that, to this day, still sticks in my head.
Yeah.
Boy, I remember there was a long time back when I first got to town, almost 20 years ago. I mean, it seemed like there was drowning every week, and that back then, the bosses wanted us to go knock on the door and talk to the parents. It was just awful. We've kind of seemed to have backed off that, thank God. But it's such a anytime kids are involved and drownings happen way too often, just terrible. What about you had a conversation of sorts with a llama at one point, right?
Oh, wow.
I think we were playing a little bit of that footage if we could again.
And that's the end result of that llama finally being caught.
Well, so please break it down for people who might be unfamiliar with that story in the Valley. I had to learn about it.
That was Harlem Globetrotters, Time of the Silver Sword.
Right.
And then the llama. There we go.
There's that llama. I got right up in his face like, you got me out here. It's 120 degrees out here and you're running around causing a ruckus.
So he got loose from somebody's yard, huh?
Yeah. Today, we still do the anniversary of the llama. We still, I see that the aerials, and I'm like, I was out there with this llama, and that video there pops up on the anniversary because it's in my social media.
Right.
There's that llama.
Was it such a big deal because it just was like the epitome of old Arizona, and now we're all grown up, but we still have llamas running around the streets?
Yeah, they're out there trying to lasso the llama. Everybody wants to get out there and get him. The police are running around.
That's great.
And I'm out there with the camera. It was just one of the craziest stories I've ever covered in 40 years.
That llama made a lot of money for Fox 10.
Oh, absolutely.
Apparently. Right. Yes.
Those the poor officers when they have to catch any loose animal. I remember I was on one with a goat like a few years back, and they're trying their hardest to how do you tackle a goat, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a comedy scene, but you have feel for them.
And that's a testament of what police officers do. I mean, no matter what the situation is, they have to prepare to keep people safe. And if that llama, God forbid, would have ran out and, you know, someone hit it,
Sure.
you know, that's what they do. And that's, you know, that's kind of like what this whole business is about, is making sure that we cover things and we deliver the news to people, no matter what the situation is, even if it is a llama.
Yeah. Rick, obviously 40 years in TV news, it's been a hell of a ride. If there's a message that you could share to younger folks out there who might think they want to get into business. I mean, obviously you've seen it change so much, not only the technology, not only the culture, not only the city, but if they're thinking about getting into it, what's some words of wisdom you can share with them?
Well, simply show up and do your job. I mean, don't worry about what the situation is. I mean, we have people in our management that know what's going on. And if you can show up and do your job and not get caught up in whatever the situation may be, at the end of the day, you'll be able to talk about it and say, yeah, you know what, I did the best I could.
Well put. You know what else you do well? I hear ride a bike.
Yeah.
Talk to me about
so
that.
yeah, that's, you know, I started with the Police Unity Tour.
Okay.
We ride from Virginia to D.C. for national law and order. We ride for those who died. You know, my father, you know, Gabriel Facio is now part of that, and it's a 300-mile ride from Virginia to D.C. and we ride into the Police Unity where all the names are at. It's a really big deal. Officers from all over the United States and from around the world show up. Some 300,000 people show up that day during National Police Week.
And now it's like a daily or weekly hobby thing for you.
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Well, I try and do between 60 to 65 miles a week.
Wow.
I was up this morning. You got to get up a little earlier now because it's a little cool outside.
Right. That's kind of why I was chuckling a little bit when we were talking about your cycling. There have been many a time where I've come in on my shift early in the morning and seen late night messages from Rick Davis. I was out riding my bike when this crazy situation happened. I've got video.
Yeah.
It's
Of
steady.
course, you got video.
Yeah. And no, I'm up. I am up before the sun comes up, and I'm riding. I like to ride when the sun's coming up. It gives me a sense of getting prepared for my day, and that ride changed my life in D.C. So that's why I continue to do it. I don't ride that tour now. I'm up there 40 years now, but I do ride a lot. I'm on the bike as much as possible.
Amazing.
Good stuff. 40 years, Rick Davis.
Yeah.
You're the man still.
All right, folks, you're watching Fox 10 Talks. We also have another bike enthusiast,
Of bike
cyclist.
riders. Yes.
Yes.
The gentleman, I did a story a few weeks ago about a gentleman who rides a long way into work. We're safe out in the East Valley.
Okay, that sounds
Yep.
good.
If she's available, yeah.
Time we hit.
All right, we're back with Fox
Now.
10 Talks. Yeah,
I was like,
we were kind
what
of just
time
talking.
is it?
We back now? We're back. We're back.
Oh gosh.
Hey, and we want to welcome everybody in on the chat. Really love the comments today. We will definitely try to get to your questions, so keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Up
We want to
first,
introduce
though,
our guest.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's do. This is firefighter Andy Huxtable, and Andy, thanks for showing up today. This is your day off today, or you just got off work?
No, I'm off work right now.
Off work right now. Fountain
Yeah.
Hills firefighter. And Andy, I guess it's been about a month or so. It was Bike to Work week, and my friend works in Fountain Hills with you, Mike Pelton. He says, I got a great story for you. This guy rides his bike to work. I'm like, okay. A lot of people ride their bike to work. He's
How
like,
far
no,
are we talking?
You don't quite get what Andy does. Talk us through your typical ride to work, Andy. When you where you start, where you go, and how long it takes you to get there.
Sure. Well, I start at home, obviously. Get up, set my alarm for 1:20, and I try to hit the road by 2 a.m. And then I kind of go, I'm in Queen Creek, so I kind of go straight west and into Chandler, and then north through Tempe and Scottsdale, and loop into the station. I do a little extra, and if I'm feeling pretty good, I try to ride a little more on some of the roads that are nice and flat and smooth and nice, a little earlier in the morning, so that I get kind of like the easier miles to rack up the miles.
Well, I think we got a little bit of your ride if we could play that real quick.
Sure.
There he goes.
I love it. It's my time
Yeah,
before work that I enjoy, and it gives me a chance to think about the day, think about what's going on in my life personally as well as professionally.
Andy, if I'm remembering right, on a good day on the way to work, you do 75 miles?
Yeah, 75, and then that's pretty much the average. The last couple of rides before work, I'm trying to get a little bit more, so I was pushing 85, 90 miles.
Wow. And so it's the scenic route on the way to work, and then when you go home, maybe a little bit, you take the shortcut kind of thing, so to speak.
Well, that depends. I do an easy week, and then a hard week, and then easy week, and then hard week. I try different periodization programs, but that one works the best. And so my hard week is a little long. On my hard week, I take a scenic route home, which is about 50 miles. And then on my easy week, I take the shortest route, which is about 35 miles.
Gosh, Andy. So
That's
we're
great.
talking 4 hours on the road. What do you do as you're going through those 4 hours? Do you listen to music? Do you think of things in your head? You got to get pretty good at that, I can imagine, because you've got to concentrate obviously on the road. Walk us through what's going on in your head during that time.
Okay. Well, as far as focusing on what's going on the road, I've been doing this a really long time, and so the movements and doing the road is actually pretty simple. I spend the first half an hour to an hour listening to the Bible, and then I spend the next 20 to 30 minutes usually just contemplating that and thinking about what I just did. And then I put on music. Usually it's pretty upbeat, kind of like workout music. I really like to do that. And then in that time, depending on what I'm working on, I'll focus on a training element for the bike, be it the bottom of the pedal stroke, foot pressures, aero position, things like that, which I typically keep anyway.
And Andy, I owe you an apology because I know in my story, this is my curse. Every day at the end of a story after I do a story, I think, I should have said this or I shouldn't have said that or whatever. I left out the fact that you were a professional bicycle rider. Is that correct? And your bicycle itself is no joke. I mean, that's as fancy, streamlined as you can get.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to ride with Neil Stewart at the University of Arizona, and that kind of opened the door to more possibilities. And so it was really, really good. I got super spoiled riding with him and getting all of the perks that come with that. So that was wonderful. So I'm always trying to keep the bike light and not carry a bunch of stuff. I'm kind of a minimalist. And yeah, my bike is absolutely amazing. They don't make them like this anymore, and sometimes they joke about that. But it's super high modulus carbon, so it's super light, super fast, super stiff.
And you kind of put it together yourself, right, Andy? I mean, it's kind of custom made, so to speak, the way you like it.
It's custom built up. The frame, I shopped to find the right dimensions that I'm looking for, particularly stack and reach. Those are key elements in a frame for a road, so I could have an aggressive position. And then I was looking for the carbon fiber, the way it was built.
Hey, Andy, so
yeah, I picked out a bike that was super special, and then I built it all up myself.
Wow. So switching gears, excuse the pun, Brian Webb loves his puns, by the way, on this topic, you obviously do a high-intensity, extremely stressful job being a first responder, a firefighter. So doing that, I can only imagine what your commute is on your way home, where there's a lot of advice out there about, hey, don't bring your work home. A lot of people say that, especially in TV news. I know I've got a little bit of a commute, which is nice for me over in the West Valley, because I'm able to kind of de-stress from all the craziness that we see on a daily basis. But walk us through that process of what you have to deal with, and then that ride home. How beneficial is that for you?
Oh, it's amazing. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I'm doing on my ride home. Is kind of like, oftentimes I'll be working still in my mind and still going over things and evaluating and kind of like, what could I do better here? What could I do better there? And so my head is really still in the game. And then when I'm about an hour away from home, I purposefully, intentfully switch gears, pun intended, and get into get into being at home and what's expected at home, the family life, bringing peaceful energy to my family, and then being present when I get home.
Good stuff for Andy. That's just great advice all the way around. It sounds like you're living the dream. I got to ask a silly question. What's the worst hill out there you have to deal with?
I don't know.
Probably for you, not
like that.
It's thank goodness it's mostly flat, right?
Yeah. Well, it's uphill on the way to work, so my 90 miles that I've been doing is mostly climbing. The second half of the ride is mostly climbing. Oh. And so I try to maintain 20 mile an hour average on a hard day on that climb, which is challenging. My normal average is like 24 miles an hour on flat.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we do have a question in here. I think this is important, especially with the heat. How do you keep cool, Andy, during this? Is it the wind? Thank you, little philosophy for that.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, one of the perks of being super early is it's cooler, and the temperature flux, the change in temperature, is relatively small. Being here in Arizona, we have huge temperature ranges that go from 20 to 40 degree temperature change, which is almost impossible to dress for. So to keep cool, usually it's my ride home where the stress is, where the stress is for the heat. And I break the rules. They say not to drink too cold of water, but I found that the colder the water, the better. If I can drink liquid ice, it cools my core and keeps me able to operate because my core temperature remains lower. So I will definitely drink ice cold water all the way home, even if I have to stop every hour to refill, just to make sure that I have ice cold water. And it makes a huge difference.
Andy, you are an inspiration to us all, sir. We appreciate you sharing your story. It was a big hit on our website, I know, and keep up the good work. Watch out for the cars out there, too, huh?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
All right, man.
Andy, thanks for joining us,
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Take care.
Right,
see you around.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, switching gears again.
Yep.
Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum joining us. Tell us about what happened in court today with the Lori Vallow.
Well, we actually just got done with our stream right now. We've been streaming for hours, but we were, it's hurry up and wait. Brian, you know this. When you have jury deliberating, you're thinking, okay, maybe we get the verdict today. It's only,
today's the day.
3 o'clock. But, the jury decided we're going to go home for the day. We're out early. It's been a long 5 days. Tomorrow they come back at 10 a.m. and this jury of 12 will decide if Lori Daybell is guilty of conspiring in the attempted murder of her former nephew-in-law. It feels like it's been a longer trial than it has, but really only been 5 days, and we heard closing arguments today. It was definitely bizarre. She got emotional. She said that this was a family tragedy and that she's being blamed by her former relative for ruining his marriage, and she's being accused of having an influence on his ex-wife. And we know the backstory, the strange beliefs that motivated this series of deadly events. The jury doesn't know all of that, though.
Really?
Because if they were to know that she killed her children, if they were to know that she conspired in her husband's murder, that would totally, what they would already basically convict her in their mind.
How do you find people who don't know that?
Right? And that's been the thing. Jury selection has been interesting, but also quick. I think it's, we're in a large county, a very large county, and it wasn't too hard to find people that said they didn't know anything about the case. Maybe they recognize her name, but really don't know all the details. And this all really exploded 4 to 5 years ago. So there are people out there that aren't into the true crime world and to cases like this.
So walk us through, at least, today, I think some were a little surprised that Lori really didn't have much of a case that she was presenting today.
Yeah.
There was no evidence, right?
She didn't want to present any evidence, didn't want to testify on her own behalf, just like the last trial where she sort of indicated she had expert witnesses that were going to, help her case, but she had nothing. And if she were to testify, she would open up herself to cross-examination by the prosecutor. And you don't want to do that. So, but she also has nothing to lose, but she decided not to present any evidence. And that was that. And she sort of was testifying through her closing arguments, which was riddled with objections because of the testimony she was basically giving. So it got sidetracked several times.
So kind of her defense is just don't believe those guys?
Yeah, just, the state has basically put me in this lens, this distorted lens that you guys are seeing. This is not a conspiracy. I made no agreement with my brother to do this. You didn't hear an agreement. You didn't see an agreement. You basically didn't see enough sufficient evidence from the state. And the prosecution is saying, well, we gave you a lot of events, facts, and evidence that list things she did to promote or aid a conspiracy. That's all that needs to be proved. That even if she didn't know exactly what was going to happen, that this man was going to be shot at on October 2nd, 2019, she did things like help remove parts from a vehicle, put that in storage, buy burner phones at an Idaho Walmart, a couple weeks before the shooting, things like that the jury would have to answer yes or no. Well, she did these things to help, whether she knew it or not. That's conspiracy.
Yeah. There's always the theory that if it comes back fast, it's guilty, right? Is that hold true, do you think, or is that just a wives' tale?
No, I think, if it comes back pretty quickly, it shows that the jury may have just said, everyone raise your hand, guilty or not guilty, and then, okay, what evidence do we need to go over? Are there any questions that you guys need help reviewing? That foreperson is very instrumental in that.
Looks like
Yeah. Should we talk about?
We got the Devin Booker thing.
Oh, good.
Hey, you're watching Fox 10 Talks. We're back.
I'm always surprised when we're back.
I know. It doesn't feel like it, right?
Shouldn't there be a big light that says 5, 4, 3, something?
They don't have the
How
budget
do you
for
know
us
we're
for
back?
that. You know that,
It's
right?
the budget.
Yeah.
How do you know that we're back?
Exactly.
You just see yourself up?
I did. I was like, hey, that's us. Thank you, everybody, joining on
Yeah.
YouTube as well. Really love the discussions we're happening today. Isabella Fredrickson
Hi.
joining us.
Hello.
Yes, love it. We lost a legend today, right?
We did.
Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys.
My first ever concert. It was a family trip to Dallas. I was a youngster. And I don't even think Brian Wilson was kind of with the band at that point.
So we're talking like 1935, I believe this was.
All right. So for
In a
Isabella
Texas
and
town.
our younger generation who might be listening to this, the Beach Boys were a big deal. They were like California surfer music, but Brian Wilson took it to the next level. And I actually have heard Paul McCartney from the Beatles say that when they heard the album Pet Sounds that he wrote, they're like, oh, we got to up our game. I mean,
Yeah.
the Beatles said that about
Wow.
Brian Wilson. So he was the real deal, and we lost him today. So that's a sad day. But also, Endless Summer, I think, was the name of the
Yes.
album that I listened to.
Endless Summer was a great one. I mean, he was the brains behind
He's
the
the brains
band.
behind it. And
Yes.
clearly had a lot of troubles later
on
in
in
life.
life. Yeah.
But for a kid growing up in Kansas,
Right.
thinking of having the chance to go surfing,
Yeah.
it was like a world away, but it
Where's this
almost
magical
brought me
land,
there. Yeah, where is
California?
this place?
Seems like it's got everything. Yeah, and I mean, there was a movie I remember past couple years ago about Brian Wilson. I believe John Cusack
Yeah.
played him too. It was a really great one, but that whole story, in the 80s, his kind of when the band broke up in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
With he and his brother, and then of course trying to get his life back together, and met I believe it was his second or his third wife that got his life back on track. Amazing.
So it's just
Amazing.
like kind of that old story that so many of these geniuses have have the devil side, and he just had some. I think it was drugs. I think it was mental illness, and you name it. Hopefully, he came out strong the other side at the end. But we lost a musical genius.
Amazing.
Bob Dylan. I just read something today about Bob Dylan. Goes that he should donate. They should donate his brain to the Smithsonian because that guy knows music like nobody else. So anyway, it's
Wow.
sad day, big deal. Anyway, that's the Beach
Isabella.
Boys.
May he rest in
a wrap.
peace.
Yeah, I know.
Thank
I
you.
know. Maybe not necessarily the Beach Boys' biggest fan, but you said your grandparents kind of listened to it too.
Are you a
Yeah.
California girl?
Yeah.
I'm a West Coast girl.
West Coast girl?
Hey.
Just a little more north.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
The
Have you ever
beautiful
been surfing?
Washington coast.
Yes.
Oh,
I
can
have.
you can surf?
I'm better at body surfing than standing
Okay.
surfing, but I can.
Did you
I've gone in
stand at one
Hawaii.
point?
Yes.
Boom, that counts.
Yeah.
We got a surfer
Amazing.
right here.
Thank
with us.
you.
First surfer on our show.
Love it.
Perfect.
Hey, so real quick, I know you've been covering a lot, and especially with
Yeah.
your stories. Can you tell us about what was one of the big stories that you covered this week?
Well, I mean, I think every story we covered was big. We had the manhunt for the dad after the 3 daughters were found dead. We had another huge salmonella outbreak. I did videos on that, but the video that got the most traction and interaction was the rare moon.
Wow.
The rare strawberry moon that showed last night and early this morning.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
our EP Dave Taylor's in the back, kind of helping us out a little bit. But Dave, if we could play SOT 5, that'd be awesome.
From tonight until early tomorrow, a rare strawberry moon.
Well, it's in the
will be
background.
visible
It's
in the
behind
night
us.
sky.
It is. It's always moving.
Yes, just like the moon was on its axis. So yeah, that story, this role is really fun because we're still seeing what videos are getting the most traction on social media.
Right.
And just like the last time we spoke with that mysterious beam of light in the sky,
Yeah.
just like this one got a lot of attention. This
Yes.
rare moon phenomenon, strawberry moon. So it's something that happens only once every 2 decades. Like 18.6 is the specific timing, but it's when
18.6.
the sun and the moon like align right on the other sides of the earth. And this one was special because it was so low in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It was
I
it was
noticed
a whole
it.
thing.
And it was like still afternoon. I'm like, whoa.
And was
something's
it
going on.
low? Like, did you
Yeah,
see
it
it
was
really,
really low,
really
yeah,
low?
really
Yeah,
low.
so that's
Really
what made
pretty,
it so
really pretty.
rare. But
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I just look on social media and I'm like, oh, there's Isabella. She's breaking down this story. Like,
Yeah.
really cool format that you're doing. And I mean, obviously you're getting a lot of traction with people online. A lot of big response.
Yeah. That one, last I checked, got 35,000 views on Instagram. It was sent out over 950 times. So
But you're able to engage with folks, I think, pretty well too on that.
Yeah, it was cool. A lot of people were commenting and they said it was their birthday yesterday. So a lot of people were in the comments saying like, oh, it's for my birthday. Happy birthday to me. But just a lot of generating comments, interactions. So,
So
it's cool.
when you send it out there, you don't know who's going to see it or what they're going to say. It just will fall, lands where it might.
It does. And when I covered the story for the manhunt for the Washington State father, I assumed that would get a lot of interaction. That one, it must have just been a slow down social because it didn't get as much interaction as I would have thought. So, you know, we're still learning each video.
Well, you need to teach me a little bit more about that too, because there are days I come in here and I go, I know that story I did yesterday is going to be killing it on the website. And then it gets crickets. Or vice versa, a story that I'm just like, whatever. Yeah. And boom, it's the talk of the website.
Yeah.
I just don't. Is there a rhyme or reason?
He's still stuck in the World Wide Web.
Yeah. Dial up, AOL.
Trademarks.
Well, from what we've learned based on being on the show twice talking about it, if it has something to do with the atmosphere or the air or the sky or the moon or the stars, I think it'll go viral. That's what I'm learning with this process.
Did we ever figure out that light? Oh yeah, we did figure out the light.
Yes.
Solved it.
Chinese. She solved it.
Chinese rockets are falling out of the sky.
A new fuel mixture, making it
so
blue.
they say.
Did the CIA reach out to you and want
No.
any?
Could not be.
I'm still
requested.
here.
Confirm nor deny to Isabella.
Yeah.
So do you have any new things going out? How many a day do you churn out?
Right now, my goal is to do one a day,
Okay.
but because it still takes kind of a while to put together, and you know, I'm taking the info we have, and then I'm trying to take a 2-minute package and squeezing it into a 45-second social video.
Right.
So I condense it. I try to think of the the new, now, next, what's important.
New, now, next.
And then I have to take all the graphics that are formatted for TV and in our systems, and I have to compress it to format onto my phone because I edit it all on my phone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a process, but I do want to get to the point where I'm putting out multiple videos a
And
day.
45 seconds, is that like the proven time span of human beings anymore these days?
Unfortunately, with the younger generations, they're
Like, oh my God, this lasts 45 seconds.
Right.
I'm supposed to watch
their
this whole thing.
attention span is so short, and even at my age, if something's longer than 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I don't want to
I
watch
know.
this.
Oh my God.
So I try to make it quick and short, and at the end of my videos, I always tease to watching like our full news segment. So it's almost like, oh, I get this bit of information. If I want more, I can go to the show, or I can go to the website.
Let me throw a wrench in that too. Your generation also likes true crime stuff that goes on and on and on and on. So maybe they just don't like the middle.
Yeah.
Middle time. I either want to commit my whole day to it, or I want to commit 45 seconds to it. Nowhere in between.
I mean, we're impatient. The attention span's really bad. Yeah, that's how it is.
Let's
for
talk
us
more about
younger
your
folks.
generation. Where did they go wrong?
I think I want to watch a documentary actually on you teaching technology to Brian. Webb. Yeah.
We could dedicate a whole
Multiple
Fox
part.
10 Talks episode to that.
Yes, I'd love it. Well,
Yeah.
Isabella, keep up the great work. Where
Thank
can
you.
people follow you if they want to see your stories?
Yes, I post them on my Instagram, so it's Isabella Fredrickson, and it's also on my TikTok, which is also Isabella Fredrickson, and my Facebook, Isabella Fredrickson TV. But each of those things I always post with our Fox socials. So if you're not following me, you'll still see it by following Fox 10 Phoenix on the socials.
Love
Isn't
it.
it crazy how
Yeah.
many platforms? Like, what's next? It's going to be a next, and there's going to be a next, and there's going to be a next. And we're going to have to probably keep doing them all.
It won't stop.
I'm glad we're keeping up with it here, because if you don't keep up with it, you're going to fall behind.
Did you
So
know it
I
used to
think
just
it's
be
so awesome we
TV
do that here.
and
Yeah.
radio
Yeah.
and newspapers? Right?
And the
You
Beach
remember-
Boys.
And the Beach
And the Beach
Really,
Boys.
really.
I
Yes.
guess
the
at
good
one
old
point
days.
there was like the town crier, and he was it.
Yes,
You had to trust him.
Brian's father, I believe. Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks,
Isabella.
Right.
Isabella.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank
love
you.
it.
It's a great addition to our
Okay.
news team.
Thank
What's
you.
up? You got something up your sleeve?
We got the mystery guest for Brian and Trenton's show.
Oh, Who could
Steve
it be?
Nielsen
Mystery guest has
in the
arrived.
house.
Did they just find him walking around the parking lot and said,
Yes,
hey,
they did.
Can you come on the show?
I mean, I was sitting at my desk, and Dave came over and goes, "We need you right
You
now.
wanna talk about
we
something?
need you as the mystery guest." Can I say something very important to start this off, guys? And
Here
this
we
is
go.
this is really huge. I just noticed something. The Smart Water logo here that you have, almost identical to the Fox 10 Talks logo. And I don't know if we thought about that before, but
Well, in every episode of Fox 10 Talks with Brian and Trenton, it is the sponsored
it's
water.
the sponsored water. Oh.
Yes.
But I don't seem to be getting any smarter while I drink it. Is that supposed to come with the thing?
Well, I have noticed you yelling a lot more at clouds recently, so.
Well, it's going the other way then.
Yes.
I also
Speaking of smart tech,
Yes.
right, you were out at an amazing find today.
Yes.
The forefront of technology on the road. Tell us about that, Steve.
Yeah, so we were out at Lucid today. This was pretty cool. So they did the ribbon cutting at the Nikola building. So Nikola,
Not Nicola.
you know, I tried every which way, and I just follow everyone else's
It's all
lead on
foreign
that
to me.
one. Yeah. So they were the EV automaker that was doing the semi-trucks, the EV semi-trucks. They had issues with their CEO and all of that stuff. So anyways, they went bankrupt. 855 Arizonans lost their jobs. That was back in February. Then Lucid, who was the first EV automaker in Arizona, they're now the last one standing. All of these other ones have just crumbled. They've either gone bankrupt, they've been bought out, but Lucid's it. So Lucid was really the only one that could purchase this building, the Coolidge facility they had, and the Phoenix headquarters they had. And they did purchase it. They hired 250 Nikola employees, which, I mean, that's a lot more than I think everyone was expecting out of that whole thing. And so they cut the ribbon. They had the big ceremonial scissors, which I've always been curious where they buy these scissors.
Yeah.
They cut the ribbon. And then what they told me too is they announced here is inside of that building at their Phoenix HQ, they have right now the prototype for their next vehicle that they're building.
Wow.
It's a mid-size crossover, and this is the big news here. It's going to be under $50K.
Whoa.
So that enters
Lucid's pretty high end.
They're
right
pretty
now.
high end. You know, their first cars were like 150K, 200K cars. So I think a lot of people just sort of checked out on Lucid at that point. Like, oh, well, I'm never affording one of these. The Gravity, their SUV, that's like 75 starting price.
Wow.
I got to look at that. Yeah. But to now be under 50K, you're competitive now with everything else that's out there.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Yeah.
I took a ride on one of those semis back in the Nikola days,
Yeah.
and I was like, holy cow. I mean, it seemed like next week they're going to be driving to Florida, but it just fell apart. If that's out of your wheelhouse, forget it.
No, it did fall apart. And I think the big thing here is the amount of just money it takes to build these things. They lose so much money for everyone they do. If you don't have the financial backing, you're going to fall apart. Lucid has the Saudi money. They got Saudi backers,
that'll work.
and they have really supported them.
Seems to be the answer to a lot of
I
problems.
wish I had some